give your dog cigarettes? Do you give your dogs alcohol? Do you maybe give them a line of Coke every once in a while? Yeah, I'm sure you saw the title of this video and you went a little nuts and you decided that you just had to watch because I'm a crazy person. So I'm gonna ask you again. You give your dog cigarettes? Now, if you do, you gotta light them for them. They don't have opposable thumbs, so maybe you do, I don't know. And do you give them alcohol? And do you let them do Coke? Well, yesterday in my video to you, I was talking about all kinds of stuff. I was talking about cancer in dogs and how the food that we give them, the commercial brands of pet food that we give them, are very likely causing all sorts of different cancers. And when I ended the video, when I ended the conversation, I said today we were going to talk about how we got to this point where we are marketed to and they are mass producing kibbles for us to feed our pets. So let me just start there, because I promised you that yesterday and I want to deliver that to you. So just before World War II, so in the early late 20s, early 30s, in the United States, canned pet food became very popular. And during World War II, we had metal rations. Now, I learned this in a movie called Pet Food, but I did some research myself online and it totally makes sense, but I wanted to make sure it was true. So we had metal rations during World War II, which was in the 1930s. And the United States government decided that pet food was unnecessary. So pet food companies were no longer allowed to use metals to make the cans to make the canned pet foods. And that drove pet food manufacturers into having to come up with a product that they could put in bags. And all of a sudden we were given dried kibble. Now, I told you in another video, I think last week, that kibble puts your pet in a dehydrated state. There is not enough water in it to provide any sort of hydration. In fact, it takes hydration away from your pet to be able to break down and process the kibble because it has so little fluid in it. It's like 6 to 7% water. That's it. So when we're looking at that versus, say, a canned food that's around 75% water, that's a huge difference. So it puts your pet in a dehydrated state. Now, these metal rations forced companies to create foods that could be packaged in bags. There is when kibble came on the market. Now, this dry food, I have a list of companies here: General Mills, Nabisco, Quaker Oats, General Foods, all saw a huge opportunity with this boom in pet food and how cheap it was to make kibble. They saw a huge opportunity to market human food byproducts and make money on them. So these food byproducts that were getting thrown away, they decided this would be a good way to use those byproducts and make money on it, where they were just throwing this away before. So now they're taking these byproducts and they're making pet food out of it. Now, in the 1960s, the pet food company really took off. Like, it went from something that people who had money could do to something everybody was doing, is buying commercial made pet foods for their pets. So in the 1960s, this started. They are using waste from the human food industry, like I just told you. They're using grains that fail inspection, so they were not good enough for consumption, but apparently they're good enough for our animals. Waste from the seafood industry, so all of those bags of food that say, you know, salmon flavored or tuna flavored or whatever else, seafood medley, whatever, is waste from the seafood industry. Diseased livestock, that one's scary because these animals have diseases and they're using them to put in our pet food. Roadkill, which, you know, I mean, if it's fresh, it might be all right, but if it's been sitting there for days, that's gross. And more recently, we've learned with a lot of the immense amount of recalls that we've had since around 2006, 2007, we've learned that they're also using euthanized animals in our pet foods, which means, along with the diseased animals that they're using, which is bad enough, they're using animals that have euthanasia drugs in their system and feeding them to our pets. So, I mean, wow, right? Why? Yeah. I'm gonna get back to what I was about to say there. So, how gross is all of this? This is what they're putting in Kibble. This is what they are mass producing. They are marketing it. Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. They are marketing this to you. They're marketing it to humans. They obviously can't market it to the pets, because the pets aren't buying anything. They don't have a currency. They don't go to the store. They're marketing to you. They're making you think that they give a crap about your pets. And the truth is they don't. They care about the money. And that's it, point blank. They don't care about your pet's health. They don't care about your pet's well-being. They get into causes like adoption and you know, feeding homeless pets because it plays on your emotion. That's it. They don't care about these animals. They just care about the dollars in your pocket and that you will eventually be buying food for these animals when you adopt them. So, that is what they're putting in Kibble. This is what they're putting in our pets' food. Now, here's how they create Kibble. So they take meat, fat, and grain scraps, which I just went through the list of all of the junk they're putting in Kibble, the diseased animals, the euthanized animals, grains that fail inspection. They're taking all of that, they're boiling it in huge vats. This is a process called extrusion. Now, I'm gonna quote this because I don't want to get this wrong. The raw materials are purchased by pet food manufacturers who then blend the rendered fat and meat with starch fillers. Now, we have talked a lot about starch in this transition to a raw food diet because starch is not something that your pets eat a whole lot of in the wild. In fact, they're only getting starch through eating the stomach contents of their prey. So you can imagine how little starch they're actually getting in the wild. But how much starch are they getting in their kibble? Like a ton. Then they add bulk vitamins and mineral supplements. They extrude the mix at high temperatures. High temperatures, by the way, kill and ruin all of the nutrients that would have been in that food. That's why they're having to add all these vitamin and mineral supplements to it. Creating all sorts of toxic reactions, including advanced glycation in products and heterocyclic amines. I want to make sure I get that right. I might not have said that right. But these are toxic reactions that are happening when they're boiling these materials. This is what passes for pet food, and it's sold to consumers at a tremendous profit. I'm quoting this from a blog that Dr. Karen Becker wrote. So I have a very high level of trust in Dr. Becker, which is why I'm quoting her to you. Otherwise, I wouldn't be. The changes to a pet's health and vitality brought on by dead, processed diets are usually not immediate or acute, which is why we have been feeding this junk to our pets for the past 60, 70 years, depending on you know, some people who had money before the 60s were able to do this, but pretty much everybody since the 60s has been feeding these commercial pet food diets to their pets. And what it causes in your pets, they're not immediate and they're not acute. That's why we're not noticing it immediately. We're not seeing a huge change in, you know, Fido overnight or in, you know, a week after they start a food, unless they have an allergic reaction to it, that is. But that's only happening more and more recently because our pets are reacting to the severity, the lack of nutrition and the lack of quality in the food. So that's why it has been so easy for these pet food companies to pass off this food and say that it's perfectly fine for your pets because, and again, I'm quoting Karen Becker on this, Dr. Karen Becker, our pets have been fed an inappropriate diet that keeps them alive but not thriving. So your pets are alive and they're not thriving, and this is what the food companies are doing to your pets. This is what the pet food companies are ultimately doing to you, because as pet owners, as caregivers to our pets, as pet parents, some of us call ourselves, we care so much about our pets, and to just feed them this junk that is killing them is really sad. It's taking what joy you would have with your pet and dramatically decreasing that time that you have with them. It has us worrying about our pets getting cancers and other diseases that they never used to get in the wild. I mean, even when you think about us as humans, were we getting cancers in the 1800s? I mean, granted, there were a lot of disease and pestilence and all this crap because we weren't technologically advanced yet, but were we getting cancers? No. Were our dogs getting cancers? Were cats getting cancers? You know, it's not something that we have a whole lot of record of, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no, because even in the 20s and 30s, people were not experiencing this, and we were feeding our pets real food because that's what they deserve. That's what's biologically appropriate for them. There is no such thing as pet food. There is food, and our responsibility to our pets is to feed them a biologically appropriate diet and a species-specific diet. And so now I'm going to turn it all the way right back around and say, if you're feeding crap like kibble to your pets, then you might as well be giving them alcohol and cigarettes and cocaine, because it's all hurting them. It's all killing them. And at least with some of the other stuff, I don't know, maybe they'll have a good time. Now, I am not recommending you do any of that. In fact, I recommend you don't do any of it. Don't give your pets alcohol, cocaine, cigarettes, and don't give your pets kibble, because as far as I'm concerned, they're all on the same, they're all in the same category. They're all killing your pets. So, thank you so much for joining my little rant today. And I hope I made my point, and I hope you understand the basis and the validation of the reasoning behind what I just said. And if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below this video. If you are watching this on Facebook, make sure you like my Facebook page. If you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you get notifications every time I post a new video. And with that, I will see you guys tomorrow.